Hi guys, welcome to another video. First of all, I'd like to apologise for the videos recently having a static background noise. I'm very new to YouTube and similar sort of things like Twitch, and unfortunately this is just a step in setting it all up and learning basically. I'm not going to pretend for a second that I'm an expert in any of this. I'm hoping this video portrays a higher quality that I'm hoping to sort of maintain in the future. Anyway, today we're going to be playing Albion Online. This game I've put around 10-12 hours in so far on my main character, and I've had advice from players that have put hundreds upon hundreds of hours in to figure out the ideology of the game. So let's begin with the video. What I'm going to aim to do for you guys is I'm going to have this character as a sort of tutorial guide. I'm going to keep this character going and do a couple of videos with him, because I found this game to be very confusing to start off with. I was really struggling with it. I didn't understand the concept of it because I've played MMOs, things like World of Warcraft for so many years. It wasn't linear, it wasn't laid out, and that's a problem with this game compared to many others. It's not a problem with the game, it's a problem with the player base. Everyone's used to having a direction and a linear path. This game is supposed to be here as a sandbox. So anyway, let's get involved. The first thing we see up here is that we've got a flashing objective. Now, in the starting areas, it's very much objective based, it's fast, it's quick. This is just going to get you an introduction to the game. I can assure you it's not like this later on. It's very sandboxy and you can progress your characters by doing basically whatever you want. If you want to be a gatherer, you can be a gatherer. If you want to be a fighter and not bother gathering, you can do that, and you can just buy stuff you need. Honestly, you can actually do that. So anyway, let's start following these objectives. The first thing we need to do is go and gather 3 rough logs. So you don't need any tools. As you can see, my inventory is completely sort of empty at this point. You don't need any tools to do this. You just walk up and the first thing you'll see is the icon changes and you can go and loot the items. We're going to go and do this until we finish this. It gathers the proficiency, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But we've moved on to the next objective, which is to go and gather 3 stone. Very, very simple. It's not difficult objectives to start off with at all. All this does for you really is sort of give you an introduction to the gathering system and the crafting system in a second. So it's now, we've completed this stone and it's moved on to the next part of the crafting a skinning knife. So as you can see here, this is the weapons. We've then got the armour that can be crafted at the start, and we've then got your tools. Tools are a big thing in this game. It kind of held me back until I realised this, because I was unable to sort of gather the materials I needed to craft stuff. So it's asked me to go and kill basic mobs and just go and skin them. They aren't particularly difficult, it's not like you can die here. And this is it, you just go around and gather. So at the start you do a little bit of everything. Later on in the game you can do pretty much whatever you want. I know other people that don't bother doing anything but gathering. That is just what they enjoy and that's what they do. This game is all about what you want to do. If you want to log on for an hour and just go and gather, you're perfectly fine to do this. So I just want to point something out while we're looking at this, and I'll go into it in a minute in a bit more detail. But as you can see here, we've got a skill now. Which has come onto our R buttons. All of your skills in this game are decided through your armour. They aren't decided through any other method. Your armour and weapon, I should say. They aren't decided through any other method. So you can completely customise your gear to suit what you want to do. So my main character is a hunter type class, playing like an archer. I run with a hunter helmet and a hunter boots that give me certain skills that suit a hunter well, but I run with a mage's chest because it gives me the most damage output, and I'm never really at risk of dying because I have my guildmates who we run together and we keep each other sort of healthy, so I don't need to worry about dying, so I can focus on doing a lot more damage. It's very much about doing whatever you feel safe with and you feel confident with. The higher the armour, so things like metal armour, is a lot more defense, a lot less offense. Obviously mages in this are very glass cannon-y, they're very squishy but do a lot of damage. So you can play kind of whatever suits your playstyle really. So the next thing we have to do is craft a beginner's broadsword. So we're going to look at the crafting station here, and we need 6 wood and 6 stone. So we can go and gather that now. We killed the bunny because we don't like the bunnies. Bunnies are the actual end boss of this game, if anyone didn't know. So we're going to gather a couple of logs and just get the materials needed to craft our sword. And this will go into further the skills that you can pick by having certain weapons and abilities. So I've crafted my sword and we've completed the mission. I'm going to equip that sword now, and it's asked me to pick a spell. It's asked me to pick one of 2, so we're going to go through what they are. The first one is a beginner strike. It's just a single target melee to the target I'm attacking. The other skill is a beginner cleave. It's a cleave to all mobs. Personally, you're not going to be fighting more than one mob at a time to start off with, so for me personally, I'm just going to take the beginner strike as a single target attack. Now, we've moved on from this area in that we've kind of got what we need, so what I'm going to do, just to be a bit sneaky, is I'm going to gather the materials I need here. The reason I'm doing this is it's something I would advise, and it was something I was advised to do, is if you go through and do this, you can actually craft all the tools you need now, rather than having to worry about it. And also, killing rabbits, you can take the hides and make armour, so you're walking into the first zone prepared and ready, rather than being caught off guard. I was very much caught off guard in that I had nothing but the sword, and I wasn't underpowered, I was still capable of doing it. It's not a particularly combat difficult game to start off with, but having someone that's going to give you the advice, which is hopefully the role I'm hoping to play in this, then yeah, it's definitely worth doing in my perspective. So we're going to go back and see if we can actually craft anything to benefit us. Up here, I'd just like to point this, because I didn't know this until it was a little bit too late. This 9% here isn't anything to do with like durability or anything like that. It's actually weight. So you do have a weight limit. Once you get to, I believe it's 85%, you start moving a little slower, and it gets worse and worse from there. So I believe this is a one-handed sword, and I should be able to equip a shield with it. So we're going to craft that shield, and there we go. The shield doesn't offer me anything except protection, and we're going to move on. We're going to move on and craft a hood, and we're going to craft some boots. So here you can see that we've just gathered another. We've got another spell now. It says sprint, and on here it's a passive, so it isn't anything we can actively use, but it gives us a passive, so it's definitely worth having, as well as the stats it also gives us. The only other thing we really want to do now before we leave is craft each of the tools. I can see that we've got a lot of stone. We need another 3 to be able to. We need another 3 to craft the 15, and we've got 3 logs per, so we need another 15 logs or 14 logs. So we've got 1. So we're going to gather that up very quickly, and I'm going to pause the recording and come back once we've got it. And we're back. So we've gathered everything we need to craft all of the tools. So we're just going to craft 1 of each. We didn't actually need all of this because we didn't need the skinning knife, but never mind. So we've crafted all the tools. I like to keep my inventory quite tidy. I know the tools I'm going to have on me at all times, so I'll just put them right at the bottom. And we're going to move on to the next area. This game is really enjoyable from what I've found. There is a lot of investment that could be done with it. It's very much theory crafting, so if you're into that sort of thing, or if you're into the old sort of sandbox games, Star Wars Galaxies, Dark Age, the later you get in the game, there seems to be things like guild versus guild fights, sort of territory control. I've seen people basically have buildings in the main towns. All of these are different options as to things you can do to sort of increase what you do. So we've just turned up at the main town. So what I'm going to do before we do anything else, because this is something that really confused me and I don't want you guys to feel that you have to go through the same thing. So I'm just going to stand here and we're going to go through the map. So the default key for the map is N. And what we're going to do, so this is the weaver. It uses the cotton that you can gather using the sickle. This is the tanner that uses the skins and hides you get from the skinning knife. obviously the lumber mill with the axe for wood, the stonemason for the ore from the pickaxe, and the toolmaker obviously used to craft the tools from the other pieces. This is your personal chest. What is an interesting thing to say about this game is the chest isn't actually shared between villages. So if I was to put something in this chest now and then go to another chest in the next village over, it doesn't move across. You actually have to manually transport it or go via boat to different villages if you can. The hammer is the auction house. We're going to look at the other side, and this is the Warrior's Forge, the Mage's Tower, and the Hunter's Lodge. These are the three sort of base classes in this game. You know, you don't directly have a class, and you can swap between at any point using a sword, a staff, or a bow. Obviously there are loads of different weapons, it's not just them three, but they are your basics. You can develop into different classes as well, so the warriors have a variety of different things. They're not just all tanks. The mages, you get fire mages, you get frost mages for the control, you get arcane mages which are more supports, you get druids and clerics which are healers. The hunters, you get spears which are more sort of sustained melee DPS even as a hunter. You get bows, long bows, you get different things, and there's so many different things to look at as to what you can do. On the other side there we've got the repair station. Now all I will say, because I've been caught out with this once already, repair every time you're in town. It's so worth it. If your durability on any piece of item gets to 0, it trashes the item. The item cannot then be repaired, and that's the item gone. So at the early stages you can't really lose it to anything else. Later on, if you die in the PvP zones or the higher tier zones, you actually drop gear. So it's always good to have a spare piece if you can afford to do so. And if you're going out to do risky content, it's potentially not worth taking your best gear. The satellite you can't really do anything with until you get to a journeyman, the adventurer level, which I will show you in a second. But other than that, it's a pretty simple layout. It gets a lot more confusing later on. So we're going to quickly go through and have a very quick look at the map that you can use to sort of develop your character the way you want to. It is very confusing. I'm not expecting anyone to understand it completely right away, but this is very much what the game's centred around. So we're going to have a quick look. If anyone's played things like Sid Meier's Civilization, this is a very similar sort of layout where one thing leads to another, and you potentially need more than one thing to complete another to sort of spiral it on. So the first thing going upwards is this is your core tree. This is the adventurers things, and this allows you to unlock things like mounts, different buildings that you can create. It's kind of what progresses you through the game. It's a steady progression. Across this way is another really important one, is the trainee fighters. What this allows you to do is use different types of weapons and give you damage bonuses through the different tiers of mobs. What I suggest is, for this one for example, if we click on that one, I wouldn't go to kill tier 3 mobs until I've got this Reaver talent, because it's just not worth it. You're taking too much damage and you're doing too little damage to kill them reliably. It's not to say you can't kill them, it's just to say that it'll be difficult to. And same again for the next one, I wouldn't go to tier 4 without being able to kill them mobs safely with the Reaver talent. Down here you have the farmers, the gathering things. This leads to, actually you can get your player housing island and you can start farming stuff. That's something we'll do at a later episode. This is the one we're going to work on to start with. This is your gathering thing. So what it's asking us to do to unlock this one is we need to gather tier 2 resources and get 0 out of 240. What this resource is fame. You get fame from everything you do in the game, and that is how you measure your character's progression, basically. And the rewards is that we can use the next tier of tools. So what we're going to do is quickly run out and we're going to have a look at killing a few mobs and gathering a couple of tier 2 resources, and that'll probably be all for this episode. It doesn't really matter which direction you go. If I press my map here, they all lead to different places. Just to give you an example of how big this world is, that is just one continent, and as you can see down here, it moves everywhere. It is such an open world that you can do literally whatever you want, and we are here in this one village. It's very scary. So we're going to go out and start exploring. So actually this is very good. The first thing you see here is if I press N again, so up here, this zone can give me tier 2 wood, stone and skinning, and it will give me up to tier 3 wood, stone and skinning again. It doesn't give me copper and it doesn't give me ore. So if you're looking to gather them, you're going to have to go to a different zone. And the next thing to point out is these things on the map here are dungeons. So I can have a look quickly. So I've just pressed M here to go to the big map. This is the zone we're currently in. So if I click on them, it's a forest camp and it's suitable for solo players, which means I could probably go and solo that very soon once we get a little bit of armour. This big one is what is called a blue, and it is a group place. You wouldn't be expected to try and go in there solo, and you are likely to die by doing it. So what I'm going to do is go around and try and gather just a couple of things, kill 1 or 2 mobs. These trees here are very worth gathering. The problem is they take a long time to take down because I haven't got the tools to do it quickly. So we're going to fight our first real mob here, and this is this fox. As you can see, it's not particularly difficult. It's not like we are going to struggle to killing anything at the moment. And for everything we do, we are going to get fame and reputation. Reputation just decides what you are in this game. So if I press, I have to find the button now. So if I look at this, my reputation is at 3, and we can look here. Dreaded is for the PvPers. Anything below sort of neutral is for PvPers. It means you've been involved in PvP content. Even if you're glorious, if you go and attack someone and go for like a gank on someone, you'll instantly drop to 0. If you start doing it commonly and you keep doing it, your reputation will drop, and it allows you to only use certain sort of cities and villages. Whereas if you're glorious, you can use all of the cities and villages, but that's mainly for so for open world PvP, you can only really defend yourself. Obviously some people are very proud to be dreaded. So we managed to kill the wolf, and we actually skinned him straight after, so we're just going to keep going around and gathering materials. As I said at the start, it's quite quick at the start to do things. Later on you have to travel for a couple of zones, and you have to sort of struggle to do a couple of things, and that's kind of the point of the game. If it wasn't difficult, you wouldn't enjoy it. So as you can just see here, I've just clicked on this, and the first thing it's told me to do is need novice axe or better. So if I click on this mob, and up here it has a 3, that means it's a tier 3 mob, and this is actually a tier 3 tree as well. So that's just the next sort of gathering level up. It's not something we can really deal with at the moment. We could potentially kill a mob, but we wouldn't get anything for it, so I'm just going to leave that alone currently. I'm going to stick to killing my foxes and gathering that way. So the best thing I can suggest in this game is read what it's telling you to do, and it's very, very simple to start off with. It's not particularly difficult. Just go and gather and craft what you think seems right. Like I said, this series is going to continue, and hopefully I can give you a direction as to what we need. Just to point out before we disappear, this is actually what the tier 2 tree looks like, this white one here. It's obviously very different compared to the rest. And we do need to gather it, so I'm going to get straight on trying to gather that. But I'm actually going to leave it here, guys. We've seen a couple of different things. We've seen a little bit of combat, we've seen the gathering system, and yeah, it's just about getting out there and exploring, definitely. Alright guys, hope to see you next time. Leave a like and subscribe. Check out the description for my Twitch. Any comments, please leave them in the section. I'll answer everyone as soon as I can. Catch you later.